This trade, we had this really strong push up. We blew right through the overnight high. That's that thick green line is going to be a daily value area level. You can see we blew right through the 300. And but then if you look in that 5 minute, we started to kind of step back, step down, and we come into that RTH, which was really close to basically where we were. And even now that I'm entered in this, you can see how it's just, they're kind of like fighting to keep it alive, and every little bump up is less and less. So I figured this would fall off, and an obvious area would be that 300 level. So as this does start to go, it's going to go really fast. So I'll talk about it now. But basically, I'll take one contract. I'm just getting it off there because I'm playing it kind of tight, because I thought, to me, this looks like we're going to come back and test that 300, maybe the ONH, that ONH level, and we would, kind of retest that and then start building back up and possibly just move the entire value up to here. Or, as strong as it was, I thought maybe even push higher from here. But, so I'll take targets a little closer. You can see that first volume node there. If you look at the TPO volume profile on the right, you can see how you have the main node, then you have a little tiny node there, and then you have the 300 level. So I wanted to get my first one coming out of that main node. So just in a second here, I'll move up a contract, kind of measure it out, make sure I get like my 20. That's what I'm doing right here. And then this last one is going to slide right through there, and I wanted to front run that 300. Right there, takes it out. So I'm just front running that 300 level. Then you can see it does kind of flush right through there. And then I was waiting to see, like I said, if we were going to start building from there, but we kind of just, it totally flushed right through the ONH. And as we bounced up a little bit, it tried a couple times. You can also see that's the value area low there. And it tried a couple times to get back into, or head towards that ONH. And it just couldn't, it's as high as it could go. So after it tried about 3 times there, you can see on that 5-minute candle, and it was just kind of stuck there. I thought that's what I was looking for, was a retest of that overnight high. But like I said, it just kept trying and trying. And that's just the best it was going to do. So I entered there. And this is the red line here is going to be a weekly value area high. And then you can see I have one of those down in the lower part of the chart. And then what I'm really looking at is that thick green line that goes across the middle of the chart. That's yesterday's value area high. And I thought if we could get kind of into this range where you can see these profiles to the left, you have like a daily profile, and then you have a couple overnight profiles, 2 dailies and an overnight there. If we got into that, I thought there was a chance that we would flush basically down all the way through it. But I was aware that on the way up here in the overnight, we used this value area high, as kind of a springboard to move higher. So they were aware of that. And I'll point it out on the 5-minute chart. They were aware of that level. But I was trying to at least get to there. And then, like I said, if it really picked up, we would flush that entire composite area with those couple different profiles there. So this is all looking pretty good. It was speeding up. This is about 5 times the normal speed. So, it wasn't moving this fast, but I'm looking at those different nodes, kind of front running the area. If you look again at the the volume profile on the right side, you can see how there's kind of a main node. It's the end, basically where it's at right now. So I wanted to take one in there. And that lined up with, I like to take one around 30 ticks, 27 ticks. That's about 6 3/4 points, just to front run the 10-point thing. And then that I like to take one at around 10 points, especially if I get through it. I won't give up that 10 points. But I'm trying to, to trade, not worrying about, it's not so much about the fact that it's 10 points. I'm looking for the target that they should be heading to, but I'm being aware of how many ticks I'm at. Like right there's my 40 ticks. So I'm going to take one in right in here. So I'm trading the structure, but I'm aware that 10 ticks is kind of a lot to give up. So once I get past it, I don't like to, it's kind of a signal to think about sizing, taking off some in that area. And definitely if you get down, 50 ticks or something like that, you don't want to give up 10 points. It all has to do with the entire concept of the trade, right? If you're going for a 50-point trade, then 10 points isn't a lot, but how often are you doing that? So I'm waiting to see how it's reacting to this value area high. As you can see, it's kind of bouncing off there just as I suspected because they reacted to it earlier and now they're seeing it again. So I take off everything except the one and thinking like it might just pull up a little bit somewhere in here and then kind of slam down through that and finish that flush. But it doesn't do that. It starts pulling back a little bit more. So I'm looking for an area. I'm looking for areas that it's going to pull back and then continue. And then I'm also looking for an area that I might want to add one back to this. And I'm looking at, if you look at the volume profile on the right side there, right in here, that's your value area low. You can see where the profile kind of cuts off there from the overnight. I mean, it's just I guess you call it a guesstimate, right? But we are under that thick red line, which was the value area. I believe that was the value area high of this week. It's not even getting close to trying to come back to the overnight high. So in my mind, we're looking down, right? At this point, we're looking down. So I go ahead and add another contract in there, thinking that we'd at least get back to, kind of where that my 40 tick mark is there. I could take that one off and then, ride the last one to the sweep or, the full flush of that composite profile to the left there. And as we get down here, it's fighting it. If they were going to flush that, I think they would have, sped up. They wouldn't have gotten that higher low there. That's why I brought the stops down on this, just because I was prepared to, just close out of this and be done with it for a minute. I thought there was a chance they would want to. I'm surprised that they didn't test that overnight high, which is what made me think that it was so weak and that we were potentially going to get that flush, is because we didn't get that retested overnight high. So at this point in this trade, that's what I thought they were, I thought there was a chance they would want to do that when they couldn't get through this value area high, the daily value area high here, the green line. You can see it's making progress, but they are fighting it. Going to take one more push to get through here. I just brought that down tight. I didn't want to deal with any more bounces. I thought if it, I give it a chance to get through there. I wanted to take that last one off. I was happy getting back to at least that 40 tick mark. And then this one, like I said, I thought I'm trying to give it a chance to break that level. And if you look, you also have the settlement, and then you have the 100% IB there. I thought that was an area that we could try to get to. And my plan was just to keep bringing the stop down. So if we broke this level cleanly, we get down to the next level. You've watched me do that on videos before. But I think right there, as we're pressing on it and it didn't go through, I should have just closed the trade. But especially right here, I should have brought that down tighter, and it either breaks or closes me out like it does here. You can see I'm just giving it as much room as I can, and it takes me out right there.